who are the most disrespected teams in the college football landscape? I put this question out on my Twitter page, and I'll be honest, I should have known better. Like, handout, that's on me. Because we got every single team under the sun, every single fan base under the sun responding and saying, hey, JD, my team, disrespected. And so when I say disrespected, I don't mean like the college football public doesn't think you're going to be good and people are maybe misjudging your squad. There are some teams that, quite frankly, have some pretty fair question marks around them, and Vegas and the college football public is responding accordingly. So I think the disrespect needs to be a little bit defined here for how we apply it to these teams. But I really do think Michigan, call it under the radar, call it taking a step back, whatever you want to call it, I think there's just a little bit of disrespect going towards the defending national champions, because I get it, man. Like we said it many times on this show. I understand where it's coming from. You lose your quarterback, you lose your head coach, switch up the coordinators, you are 128th in returning production all of college football. I understand that. On paper, all of that makes sense. There's also a lot of oxygen in the room in the Big Ten being taken by Ohio State and their moves and Oregon and their entry into the Big Ten and the way that's going to look. But, like, listen, man, that national championship trophy still currently resides in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And just because the production, a lot of that left to the NFL, there's still a lot of production that's still in-house out there. Like, there is still, I think, a lot of benefit coming from the Jim Harbaugh development factory. Like, guys that maybe didn't contribute in a major way last year, but have been working behind the scenes, working in the shadows for the better part of the last few seasons. They're going to step into a starring role this year, and I think Michigan has the championship DNA to still be a factor in the Big Ten title picture, obviously. And I'll say this, too. I think in the national title picture. I'm not calling my shot here, but I am telling you Michigan is going to be a destination that someone will have to go through at some point in time to win a national championship, or at the very least impact the national championship picture. There's still championship DNA in Ann Arbor as well. I want to make sure we say that. Like, as many guys have gone from Michigan, there's still, and we say this a lot, there's still some key figures there that are going to be leaders that have seen the blueprint to go reach the mountaintop of the college football world. Donovan Edwards, God bless him, is now on the cover of College Football 25. He's still there. He still put on a clinic last year in the national championship game. Going to get more carries with Blake Corum gone in the league. Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham. The entire country got introduced to those two defensive linemen during the course of that college football playoff run. They were forces on the defensive line. Like, that's still there. Colston Loveland, Will Johnson, like, they still got dudes in-house. So say what you want about all the pieces they lost from last year. If Michigan is going to fall off, I don't think the fall off happens this upcoming season. I think that we're maybe getting a little bit ahead of our skis, just totally counting them out of the college football playoff picture and the Big Ten title picture. Michigan, put some respect on their name. Please. Please. Now, Florida also getting a lot of disrespect. And y'all, if we go down with this ship, I still do not believe that Florida is just left for dead. I think what we're seeing here is the social media narrative being pushed and the brutal schedule sort of aligning with that narrative that, hey, Florida, they went 5-7 last year. That's under their standard. That's not so good. Florida must not be any good. And I keep coming back to this, man. Like, are they an SEC championship contender kind of team this year? I don't think so, but they're for darn sure better than under 4.5 wins. Graham Mertz gets another year under his belt. Same dude they were telling me last year now, hey, he sucks, JD. Hey, he's no good. What? You see him at Wisconsin, all those interceptions he threw. Only threw 3 last year at Florida. Took good care of the football. Gets another year under his belt now in Billy Napier's system. Threw 20 touchdowns last year. Threw almost 3,000 yards last year in the toughest conference in America. And you give him more help at the skill positions. You got Shamir Dike from Wisconsin. That's one of his guys. You got Elijah Badger from Arizona State. After the catch, monster. Trey Wilson, I've said many times, he may be the best playmaker in the SEC this upcoming season. And so you pair all that with what I think is going to be an improved defensive side of the football. They got much older in the secondary. Again, I don't know if they win the SEC, but Florida is going to do 2 things in 2024. Hear me clearly. Call our shot season in effect right now. 1, they're going to make a bowl game. All right? Now, do they win 8 games? They win 9 games? We'll see. They're going to win at least 6. So that's first off. Second, they are going to catch somebody slipping. Like, they may not be in Atlanta for that game when it comes time to decide the SEC, but they are going to severely impact somebody's chances at making the SEC title. This roster now, say what you want about the social media narrative and Billy Napier this and Sunbelt that, like, they're going to be a problem for somebody. So sleep on Florida if you want to, but the over-under 4.5 win total for me is egregious. So we'll leave that at that. Now, speaking of jokes now being made about different teams in college football, Penn State, man, the Drew Aller jokes are flying all over the place about what he wasn't last year and all the things that he didn't do last year and how they're 10-2 this, 10-2 that. There's still a lot in-house in Happy Valley. All right, the Nittany Lions are nowhere near, in my opinion, left for dead, as maybe most of the Big Ten would like to imagine they are. Again, all the conversation around Ohio State and Oregon. Penn State is going to revamp their offensive scheme. Now you lost Keandre Lambert-Smith. You brought in Julian Fleming, so you're going to ask a lot of him for you. Still got a 5-star quarterback. And you have a coordinator who I think most of America feels pretty confident in his ability to assist Drew Aller this upcoming season. You have arguably top 5, I think without argument, a top 10 backfield in college football, still in-house. Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. That defense, even though you lost Manny Diaz, Tom Allen, it's not a downgrade by any stretch of the imagination calling the defense for you. So the defense should still be tough. Here's the big part for me, man. Like, I don't get all the Penn State disrespect because with that schedule, brother, they should eat. Like, they should be 11-1 on paper because there's no Michigan or Oregon. You get Ohio State at home. They should be a playoff team. And depending on how things break, Penn State probably should be in that Big Ten championship game as we sit here in June. So again, we'll see how that record looks when it comes time for them to actually decide on where they end up at in the Big Ten standings, rather. But 11-1, that's what they look like to me preseason by nature of the teams they have to play on this schedule and by nature of how much talent this roster has. Now, one more team here that's kind of flown under the radar, and they're not the biggest brand in college football. They are a team that usually draws more headlines for what they do on the basketball court. But listen, Arizona, man. Vegas is disrespecting Arizona. And maybe it's because Arizona is so close to Vegas. Maybe there's some sort of rivalry going on there. But, like, I'm just telling you, they are better than 7.5 wins. Because they bring back 66% production from last year's squad that won 10 games. They bring back 70% production specifically on offense with one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in America in Noah Fafita and Tetairoa McMillan. I understand that you brought in a new head coach. I understand Jed Fish, he's gone to Washington. You got Coach Brennan. That's great. I'm all for it. But to say they're going to take a drop down to like 7 wins after they won 10 a season ago and they bring back a lot of that squad, what are we doing here? All right? Don't let anybody tell you we don't talk about the lesser maybe less, not as big brands on this show, because we do, man. Arizona, put some respect on their name. Plus 1,000 to win the Big 12. Again, I like Texas Tech a lot when it comes to the odds that I'm throwing down and the favorable bets at this point in the year, but I would not sleep on plus 1,000 for Arizona. It wouldn't shock me at all if they won 10 games yet again and they found themselves in the college football playoff. 7.5 wins. We scoff at that. We scoff at that. So the disrespect across college football to me is landing most notably on Michigan, Florida, Penn State, and Arizona as we sit here in June. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.